Alright lads, so I'm back from my holiday, and with that, let's talk about the new characters. Because the pre-anniversary banner, the warm-up appetizer leading up to the 10th anniversary released a couple days ago. I was on holiday when it happened, I reacted to the characters, but I've yet to officially test them out. So before we do start the showcase then, potentially later today and tomorrow, I want to talk about the characters once more, talking about how good they are, and what this potentially means more so for the upcoming 10th anniversary. Because that's important to know, and I'm going to keep mentioning it, because some people do believe this is the 10th anniversary, and no, it is not. This is a warm-up appetizer, a countdown prelude to the anniversary, which will be happening July 23rd. So with that in mind, first up, let's talk about the character choice. AIZEN and BYAKUYA remix right now is absolutely crazy in my opinion, but there's no better time to do this than, of course, the 10th anniversary. This anniversary as a whole should be bigger than past and future anniversaries. And while we're not off to a great start considering the terrible step-up format, we'll talk about that more later tomorrow during our community reaction video, but in terms of pre-anniversary headliners, this is probably the best case you can get. And keep in mind, and I'm quite surprised it took this long to actually happen, because it just makes perfect sense. And I said this last year, that I want this to continue being a trend, where June mid-month is just dedicated to a pre-anniversary banner. Something equally as exciting, potentially, as the main anniversary, but more so in a way it gives a perfect opportunity to remake past anniversary characters. Because while we have been getting an anniversary renewed remake every single year, Aaroniero is in 2022, Quincy Ichigo is in 2023, Mugetsu was done in 2024. In my opinion, they are best done during a time like this, right before the upcoming anniversary, and Mugetsu essentially started that last year. Again, unfortunately, it wasn't paired with the very amazing step-up format where you were guaranteed Mugetsu in 10 steps. This banner doesn't have that, and it's worse even, which of course does sour the mood a bit. But again, similar to last year, I do like the idea of these characters being remade as we are getting close to an anniversary. And with that in mind, since 5th anniversary Ichigo was skipped over, next year I'm expecting June mid-month to be a 5th anniversary renewed Ichigo. And that's something to look forward to if you do like that character, because I think, in my opinion, they did a pretty good job with AIZEN and also BYAKUYA. But with that in mind too, right, they clearly skipped over Ichigo. It would have made more sense to do Ichigo and also AIZEN, but there's a clear reason why they haven't, and that's because Ichigo is going to be part of the actual 10th anniversary. We always mention it, Ichigo, no matter what, is going to be in the anniversary. It's either the Prelude, Part 1, or Part 2. Right now, he's clearly not in the Prelude banner, so that means we are due in Ichigo for Part 1 or Part 2. In my opinion, especially with the fact that they did a 5th Annie BYAKUYA and 6th Annie AIZEN remake, that only means Part 1 is going to be original characters once more, something that we've been looking forward to, because I don't think you can do a banner like this in terms of character choicing, two of the biggest anniversary characters to date in a banner, and then a month later follow up with 1000 Year Blood War canon characters. And mind you, I don't mind canon anniversaries, but the time and place, and I think for something as big as the 10th anniversary, especially if Ichigo has to be part of Part 1, he's the main character, you can't follow that up with 1000 Year Blood War True Shikai Ichigo, unless for some reason they jump forward like Rebirth of Souls and do Horn of Salvation Ichigo. That's the only way I'd be accepting of a canon Ichigo in Part 1. So this to me does almost confirm, and we'll find out in less than a week's time when we get our anniversary teaser trailer on what the upcoming anniversary is going to be. Canon or original? Right now, in my opinion, it's looking more so original characters or original design units. But if we have a closer look at each individual character, AIZEN and BYAKUYA, we can potentially see what the upcoming anniversary characters are going to have, because of course they are going to be better than AIZEN and also BYAKUYA, right? Especially if we use last year as an example and compare Mugetsu to a character like Kenpachi and also Grevy. We'll do that in a few minutes. But in terms of AIZEN, in a way, and I've seen some criticism towards this, again, we'll talk about it more so tomorrow, I don't think it's that big a deal, but this character is essentially 6th anniversary AIZEN with different stat elements and better skills. In a way, this is what you would love to see in a resurrection, if that was ever possible. Because in terms of strong attacks that he has here, it's quite literally the exact same. And to be fair, for a character as perfect as AIZEN, I don't think he deserves any less, which is why I'm perfectly down for him having the same strong attacks. Fortunately, they have different visuals, and I think his SA3 looks absolutely amazing. So, one of the big differences here that we are seeing when compared to the previous anniversary AIZEN, and in a way it kind of shows how times have changed, is that he kind of lost the weakening effect for Dominate. Now, Dominate is the new stat summon. When you do inflict it, enemies can't attack you, and they start attacking themselves and also their teammates. It's a pretty good status on it, in my opinion, especially for Limit Breaker. That's where you get to really see it shine, where enemies themselves can do millions of damage to each other. And then for Guild Quest content, more specifically, especially if they don't have Poise Break, which of course this character does lack, he doesn't need it, it does allow you to basically have like 10 seconds of invincibility, technically, because the enemy can't hit you. While the damage itself in co-op content, in again, Guild Quest isn't really that noteworthy, you probably won't even notice it, it does give you the advantage of being able to take no damage. And even if this character does take no damage, he can still heal himself back up to full stamina because he does have Drain. So I do like that he has 2 status elements. Of course, in this case though, he is kind of a rarity, to be fair. We don't very much see 2 status elements come out nowadays on new characters. Everyone's getting status element plus. So for a character like Aizen to release with 2 status elements and none of them are status element plus, maybe in the future could be an issue, but I'd like to say it won't be. Because what we also do know is that status element plus, especially in Guild Quest, you know, Limit Breaker, or co-op content, for example, where everyone can inflict status element at the same time, you know, if a character inflicts status element plus first, Aizen can still inflict his status element. So, in all honesty, him not having status element plus isn't that big of a deal. Especially where, you know, you might come across another status element in Guild Quest content, for example. You know, the best team booster for that phase is Magic Society Esnot, who has Paralysis Plus. So, very rarely are you going to come across a situation where someone inflicts a status element before Aizen and robs him of that status element. So, I honestly don't think it's a big deal or a bad idea that he doesn't have status element plus, even in, you know, leading up to the 10th anniversary. Obviously though, with that in mind, Caleb clearly don't want to do double status element plus as of just yet. That would eventually happen in the future, maybe during the upcoming 10th anniversary, because that's again something that we haven't seen just yet. But I do like the idea that he did, you know, replace the weakening. Weakening as a whole, if it's not status element plus, weakening plus, isn't that good when it comes to Guild Quest content because it's heavily nerfed. So losing the weakening for Dominate, I think actually benefits him in the long run. Although keep in mind, it does make him worse in epic raids because Dominate cannot be inflicted. Even in this case, when he has 2 status elements, Dominate and also Drain, he still can't inflict status elements. It's really unfortunate. And that ultimately is just the unfortunate fate that every other Dominate character has to share. But obviously, like we did mention, this character's strong attack kit is the exact same as the previous 6th anniversary Aizen, and that in of itself is also a rarity for nowadays. You very rarely see a character like that get those 3 exact strong attacks, while also equally having really good skills. I mean, in a way, the closest thing to that as of late was 9th anniversary Grummy. And even then, Grummy doesn't have the really good SA2, it's a beam into a tracking vortex instead of a distant AoE into a tracking vortex. So even Grummy, almost as perfect as he is, Caleb held back a tad bit by giving him a not so great SA2, even though it is still better than like 99% of the other characters in the game. His EX skill 2 being another vortex I think looks really cool too visually, but it also works very well with the character's kit, especially again once more in Guild Quest when we showcase him, because it drags everyone into the center. Very good for inflicting status elements and just basically puts them, the enemies, right in front of you to use any strong attack, which I think plays very well with this character's kit. In a way, this character is designed to non-stop heal, non-stop inflict status elements, even when he doesn't have his increased status element chance. And also, in a way, makes it so this character can never be hit because he's always going to be inflicting dominating. Now, one thing that I think is maybe underappreciated, I think a lot of people are going to share the same opinion, is that I love it when characters get all status resistance. He's immune to every status element while also having long stride and extra flash steps built in. That's something that a lot of like the really great Brave Souls used to have, you know, a couple years ago. Whenever you got like an anniversary character or a super broken unit, they would always come with like long stride and extra flash steps, and it kind of slowed down as of late. Even though every month we get a Limit Breaker unit, it seems like they're more so focused on getting skills that increase their damage output, which I guess I kind of understand because we can just give the character long stride through bonus abilities. But I kind of like when I don't have to, in my opinion. I always love having long stride built in, and the fact that he has that with the extra flash steps and also immune to every status element, I think is really cool. Because again, once more, with every character coming out nowadays, they always have a status element resistance to the Guild Quest they potentially want to be used in, even if they aren't even designed for Guild Quest, unless you're maybe a farming character. So personally, I absolutely love the long stride and also, you know, status immunity with the extra flash steps, and the same can be said for Byakuya when we get to him, right? Now, again, one great thing too is that his damage output is so much higher compared to past characters. It really is. And for a mid-month unit, even though he's a special unit, it is still kind of crazy to see because he has Frenzy +2 with 100% strong attack damage. That is crazy. A lot of end of month characters would love to even get 40% strong attack damage. More often than not, at most, they would get like 60, 80%. AIZEN has 100% with, mind you, the best strong attack hit in the entire game, right? That's absolutely crazy in my opinion, especially with the fact he has more ways to increase his damage output. He has the 100% damage to dominated enemies, a staple at this point for every dominated unit. Both Giselle's and also Shinji have came with this skill, and it makes up for the potential shortcomings that come with Dominate, like for example them not being able to inflict it in epic raid content. But then of course with his increased Thousand chance, even though he technically doesn't need it because he has a very good SO2 and EX attack, he does get an 80% spiritual pressure boost. This, in a way, especially with the extra 20% full stamina damage, is better than most end of month units, in all honesty, even as we are now leading up to the 10th anniversary. And that's kind of crazy to say because, you know, you're going to see with Byakuya has Frenzy 3. This character has Frenzy 2, so technically he's behind a Frenzy on Byakuya while also not having status element plus. In a way, this character, like, you know, my first reaction to him was that maybe he's not going to age as well 3 years from now, and that very well could hold up. But as of right now, at the very least, this character is clearing content fast. Very, very fast. And even in the context of guild quests, where he wants to be used in the range Captain Killer guild quests. If we have a look at the best character to use here, again, I find it really cool that AIZEN, in a way, is a replacement for 6th anniversary AIZEN. It does show here that he's a tad bit better than Candice, but it really is night and day different if you use this character. I'll try and showcase it in my video, but I've seen a 1-5 AIZEN, shout out to Miz for this, clearing 54 seconds. He cleared guild quests technically in 6 seconds. At 1 out of 5. Most characters at 1 out of 5 can barely get 50 seconds of clear time. He gets 54. So from my personal, just from what I've seen, right, this character in a way is the best guild quest character at 1 out of 5. And the craziest part about that is that he doesn't have any guild quest skills, right? That's something to praise about these characters too, this banner more so, is that, you know, I really thought they were going to get Frenzy +2, free in guild quests. He doesn't. I thought he was going to have wasted skills. He doesn't, in my opinion, have a single wasted skill here. Maybe besides Bombardment, but I think it's whatever. Because for guild quests, where you would probably want to summon for a character like this, right, he can get 54 seconds remaining at 1 out of 5, which again, I think is very similar to characters like 9th Annie Kenpachi, and also, you know, end of year Fullbring Bankai Ichigo, which have the advantage of having the very powerful EX attack that increases their spiritual pressure to upwards to like 300%. It's also probably worth mentioning that AIZEN does have Soipa and also Holo affiliation. We recently just got the Holo affiliation Senkaman Tower, so it's an extra character you can use in there, a more recent one, and also most importantly a premium unit. If you are saving your summon tickets for the upcoming 10th anniversary, this is now an additional very powerful character, a very cool and hype character that you can get from your summon tickets, especially again if you did skip this banner, which I don't blame you, because it's a terrible step up format. Oh, and also he's a pretty good soul trait. Yeah, man, this character is very powerful. Very, very powerful. I'm super excited to have him, super happy to have him too. And in a way, I think this character does live up to the expectation of a renewed 6th anniversary AIZEN. He deserved the best, and in a way, he got the best. If there's one nitpick I will say about the character, though, it is the killer effect. Even though it's good, I would still love to have a second killer. Because though he plays super great, you know, I am going to be using this character outside of guild quests. Would love to try this character in Limit Breaker, and with a lack of killer, you know, Soriba, Holo, Aranka, for example, how often am I going to use them in a breakup? I'm not too sure. But I would like to say you still could because of his strong attack hit and also increased Thousand chance. If there are any Soripas, if you ever want to use a range character, you can definitely use them because his damage will hold up, and also the fact that the Dominate does allow you to potentially do upwards to millions of damage per hit when the enemies hit themselves, will allow him to also potentially cheese some stages too. So in my opinion, an exceptional unit. That then takes us into Byakuya. So Byakuya, I think for Guild Quest content has a bit more excitement around him because of the Stamina Killer. I mean, to be fair, the Captain Killer Guild Quest also needed a new character, especially for those that didn't have Candice. And now both these Guild Quest phases have premium alternatives, similar to how the, you know, Range Squad 0, Ranger Spada also have premium alternatives thanks to Ichigo and also Ogiura. But you're going to see similar things here with this Byakuya. He also was given 2 soul traits. He got a bit more specialty similarity when compared to Aizen, kind of, in that is with the SA2, as it is a superior strong attack 2. Now, the initial reaction to this character's SA2 was that it was going to be a mediocre, bad strong attack 2, just based off the visuals, but it's essentially an almost full screen around him, very similar to the Mayuri, the recent one, if you played with him. So similar, Byakuya also has a very good strong attack kit, while also being in a way completely different compared to the previous 5th anniversary Byakuya. Like, not a single strong attack is the exact same as the 5th anniversary version. But in a way, the unique thing about the original 5th anniversary Byakuya was the SA2. You know, back 5 years ago, almost at this point, which is crazy to say, people would say that 5th anniversary Byakuya was carried and only was sought after. And the only reason he was talked about, besides being a mediocre character, was due to that SA2, which he was the first character to introduce it, the distant AoE into a tracking vortex. So they still made the character somewhat special by giving his SA2 a superior attack, which makes it do 20% more damage. And at the same time, the EX attack does actually have a vortex around him, which I think is pretty good. It's the first time I think we've seen a EX attack like that. A self-surrounding vortex, visually it looks good in my opinion, and it's going to play very well for this character because it has great crowd control while also being able to inflict paralysis plus. Because it does feel weird to see it after having a character in game for 5 years. This character can now inflict stars on it, and I think paralysis makes sense for him. I mean, it could have been lacerate too, but I won't complain about paralysis. It's one of the best stat summons in the entire game, so you won't hear any complaints from me. But going down, looking at the character's skills, once more similar to Aizen, this character is also immune to every stat summon, while also having long stride and also sprinter +2. It's an underappreciated part for a lot of new characters. They just don't get that. And even though I don't really care about Arena all that much, I would still like to use characters in Arena, and if you don't have long stride, I don't want to use you. But this character in Arena does pick up the start power item +2, an extra special move, and also poise. So, you know, if you did want to use him in Arena, he has all the skills you want, essentially. Similar to Aizen, this character also has very high damage output. In a way, this one looks a bit more crazier, because, surprise, surprise, he actually has Frenzy +3. Now, in my opinion, with him getting Frenzy 3 now, this might open the door for Frenzy 4 to be a thing, maybe introduced in the 10th anniversary. Now, keep in mind, as we progress through Frenzy 1 into 2, into 3, and eventually 4, it does not get super crazy as we get up there, you know? You know, the jump from Frenzy 1 to Frenzy 2 is a lot bigger than Frenzy 3 to Frenzy 4. But nonetheless, Frenzy 4 with also really high damage output in terms of strong attack increase is also going to be really good. But this character having Frenzy 3 is quite surprising because the only other characters to be given Frenzy 3 outside of Guild Quest is End of Year Ichigo, 9th Annie Kenny, 9th Annie Grammy. So this definitely does potentially seem that Frenzy 3 might start becoming the norm in the future, in and outside of Guild Quest, and it might even start to introduce Frenzy 4 for the big anniversary characters. But Frenzy 4 in a character like this is no joke, especially with the fact that he also has a super high strong attack damage increase. 70%, but keep in mind he does have an extra 20% here. Actually, never mind, I'm pretty sure that's built into this skill here. So 70% strong attack overall. If that was the no, they also gave him 40% strong attack damage at full stamina, and then 50% more damage to paralyzed enemies, while of course having an increased Thousand chance, and then of course the 80% spiritual pressure boost. So in a way, his damage output is also crazy high compared to Aizen, in different ways though, you know? And again, like I said, first impression was that, damn, why did they not give Aizen Frenzy 3? And they gave Byakuya Frenzy 3, but in actuality, Aizen is probably still going to clear faster than Byakuya, despite all these skill increases. But maybe I'll be wrong. We'll find out tomorrow when we can try this character out in Guild Quest. Regardless though, what you have here is a super powerful mind character and a super powerful power character, which does kind of change things up leading into the 10th anniversary, because my expectation for the 10th anniversary was that we were going to get a power and mind character, and we just got it. So, damn, what are we going to get for the 10th anniversary? I'm not too sure, because power's in a bad spot. Not like they're ever competing with each other, but, you know, when we do our monthly tier lists, and we are in the progress of updating them, power doesn't really have like a super standout unit, and as of right now, I will probably say that Aizen is the best power character, in all honesty, just due to the strong attack here and no limited skills. You know, a lot of the other great power characters here maybe have a problem or two. Mugetsu's weakening lasts like a millisecond. Senjumaru only has Frenzy 2, Frenzy 3 in Guild Quest. Would have loved if she had Frenzy +3 everywhere. She would have been very good if she had that. So it kind of does mean that Aizen is like the best power character right now. Not like they're really competing with each other anyway, but, you know, if you do want to put labels on a character, I do think he is the best power unit. In a way, we could get better though. You know, we could get a Frenzy 4 character, a Frenzy 3 unit, with a better, more traditional PvE killer. So maybe a power character for the upcoming anniversary is still on the table. And that would be really cool too, because we are getting a power move source if you log in every day starting on the 22nd. So the perfect move source to use on Aizen or this potential upcoming anniversary unit. And then even the mind attribute, right? Because what happens when we go into an anniversary is that they will always give us 2 attributes for an attribute that need it the most, in terms of attributes that do not have a super powerful character. That way, they're competing against less units and can stand out. You know, Heart right now has access to Ichigo. Very powerful unit. I'm sure the 10th anniversary will introduce a character better than this unit. But you wouldn't want them to be a Heart character because technically they would be competing, especially if for some reason they had the same killer. Likely that won't happen. But whenever it came to guessing, you know, previous anniversary characters' attributes, it was quite predictable. I mean, I think I've been right the last 4 years in a row. It was quite an easy guess that in the 8th anniversary we were going to get a mind and power unit because mind and power are lacking. Kind of like we are lacking right now. Mind and power are still lacking despite these 2 new characters. But if this is Caleb's way for us not to get a new super broken power and mind character, I'm kind of fine with it. These characters are definitely going to hold up for the time being. But what does that mean for the upcoming anniversary? What attribute will they actually be? I'm not too sure. I'm definitely expecting a speed character for the upcoming anniversary, more so in part 2. Wouldn't be surprised if we, again, still get another power mind character. I'm open for it. Heart also has a possibility. I mean, at this point, technically, every attribute has the possibility. For Technique, I'm not too sure. If Technique was to get a super broken character for part 1 of the anniversary, it would have to be part 1, because part 2, we are going to likely get a Technique Brave Battle unit. And we'll see how these 2 characters do age up when compared to next month, because, you know, we have to look at last year, for example, with Mugetsu releasing a month before the actual 9th anniversary. Even though he was an exceptional unit and has aged very well thanks to his very unique soul trait, he didn't live up to the absolute raw power that was introduced during the 9th anniversary. You know, for comparison's sake, this character has Frenzy +2, a decent strong attack damage increase at basically 70%. Again, love that these characters do have all resistant, long stride, and also more flash steps. I actually want to see that during the actual anniversary. That was one of my few nitpicks with the 9th annie characters, Kenpachi and Gremmy, is that they didn't have any long stride, they didn't have full status immunity, at least Kenpachi didn't. Just quality of life stuff like that I want to see on actual big units like anniversary characters. But he only has Frenzy 2, more damage to weakened, and also 100% sport pressure boost, which we've not actually seen return yet, by the way. Like, Mugetsu, the only character to have a 100% sport pressure boost as a skill. Some characters can get to 120%, but it is 80% as a skill, and then 40% through the soul trait. So maybe during the actual 10th anniversary, we could see a character with a 100% sport pressure boost, alongside maybe Frenzy 4, and some potential new mechanics. But, you know, while this is great and all, if we had to look at the actual anniversary characters, you'll notice that, you know, Kenpachi introduced a new mechanic, Killer Plus. Mugetsu didn't get that. Mugetsu also didn't get the EX skill. And then in terms of damage output, these characters basically kickstart the new meta, Frenzy +3. Characters don't get Frenzy 3 everywhere normally, but they do at the very least get it in Guild Quest so they can compete from a competitive standpoint in a competitive Guild Quest modes. And you know, a Frenzy +3 wasn't enough for a character like Kenpachi, he was also given 100% strong attack damage. So going into the 10th anniversary, we might see something very similar, with whatever the anniversary is going to introduce a new mechanic. Of course, the pre-anniversary characters aren't going to have it. And we saw quite a big jump from Mugetsu to Kenpachi. So how big of a jump are we going to see from, you know, Byakuya to the actual 10th anniversary? Because as of right now, Byakuya essentially, especially Byakuya, but both Aizen too, they have almost everything. The superior strong attack 2, the Stars and Plus, the EX attack, the super high strong attack damage increase with the Frenzy 3, and also the 80% sport pressure boost. More damage to paralyzed enemies as well. How crazy is the 10th anniversary going to get if this is what we're getting right now a month before the actual anniversary? That's the question we're not going to find out till this time next month almost. But either way, I'm excited for it. I'm sure the 10th anniversary is going to be a big one. That is the expectation, as it is such a big milestone. And with these characters being introduced right now, it's definitely increasing my expectation in terms of how powerful the upcoming 10th anniversary characters are going to be, and also what they could potentially be. Because I can't see Caleb right now doing an anniversary Aizen and Byakuya remake into a canon Shunsui and Lije anniversary part 1. Even though I would be excited for it, you can't have such a cool banner like this for the pre-anniversary and then have a canon anniversary part 1. I would say canon anniversaries in every other year, but for something as big as 10 years, I want to see original characters, and I really do believe we are going to get that. As long as the upcoming anniversary banner isn't this terrible step-up format, we're in good hands in my opinion. But only time will tell. We'll see how it goes, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.